And good evening, race fans, and welcome to the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway, for what is sure to be yet another thrilling round of the FTF Saturday Night Super Speedway League, except it's on Friday with the running of the 240 tonight. I am Blake McCandless, joined alongside by Justin Prince and Zach Johnson down in the virtual production trailer. And we've come to see some crazy races in this series, but this is more familiar territory tonight, Justin, for these drivers, getting back in the top three NASCAR division and getting to some familiar territory here at Daytona.
Well, based on the race name, it's expected to be a crazy night of action, to say the very least, because tonight many different competitors from across FTF action have come to this racetrack to try and compete. And keep in mind as well, Blake, the pressure is on for those wanting to compete for a championship in this series, because if you don't succeed here and get yourself in the top 5 in points, you will not have a shot at the championship. In other words, tonight the pressure is on for those fighting for the title, but also expect a lot of drivers looking to have some fun tonight and some big names who are among those listings.
That is certainly the case. Again, after tonight, we will know the 5 drivers who will advance to the championship round taking place next week. So, of course, a lot to decide here at Daytona as we take a look at the point standings in this series. You can see Tristan Hagenstein, his consistency in 6 starts, 5 top 10s, 4 top 5s has led him to a pretty big advantage over Mike McConville there in second. And, of course, again, it is that top 5 cut line that everybody is looking to get above, and a couple of drivers within striking distance there. Sean Butler, Clint Roberts, Justin Malillo, just a couple that have an opportunity here tonight to try and make up some ground if Merged or perhaps even Michael Frisch run into some trouble.
Now, keep in mind, there is a drop that will be factored in after tonight's race as well, so the pressure is on to make sure that if you have had to use that drop, that you succeed very well tonight, to say the very least, because tonight could see a lot of fluctuation amongst those competitors as a result, with how tight things can be and how tight we've seen the points are without the drops already. So this is going to be a night where you see a lot of drivers want to get some lead laps and try and get the fastest lap and get those valuable bonus points as this night goes on tonight. Keep in mind that with this package 2, we expect a lot of back and forth for the drivers up at the front.
That is going to be the case tonight. And again, it's important to note with that drop that will obviously shuffle things up as well, but we'll have to wait until after this race to see exactly where all that shakes out, except for maybe a driver like Sean Butler, who missed one race earlier this season. So obviously his drop is 0. So he may even be in a better spot than what our point standings earlier indicated. But we are done with qualifying, and as is custom here in the FTF Saturday Night Super Speedway League, we have our top 2 set by the grid in qualifying, and at the moment it looks like Sean Butler and Justin Malillo have the pleasure of driving off from row number 1 when we get ready for this feature. But as is custom, 10 laps for one heat that'll be run. We have 28 drivers that will fill out the rest of the grid, 3rd through 30th here in our main event tonight. But this is how they'll roll off for this 10-lap heat, as you can see them continuing to scroll by. As we've kind of talked about all season, Justin, this is their opportunity. If they didn't get the opportunity to do so in practice, they get to learn this racetrack. They get to learn how this car handles, and especially how it's going to handle in the draft. And if practice is any indication, we may not be much of a pack for very long.
Yeah, several drivers had trouble once they got into groupings of about 8 cars, where several kept on getting very unstable, kept on bobbling around and having some handling issues, to put it politely. So we'll have to see how they race, though, in a big pack of 28 cars here for this heat to determine your starting grid for 3rd through 30th position for tonight. But some of the big names that are going to be in this group include drivers like Ryan Vargas, Landon Sabile. Those drivers are racing tonight. Derek Justice, he's back racing tonight. Kevin McAdams, deep in the field in tonight. And don't forget about drivers like Nate Stewart, Mash Witchard, and several more who are looking to start from the very back of the field for this one. there are going to be some big names that are going to be in the heart of the pack, while others that are going to be coming straight from near the tail of the field and trying to stay out of trouble in just a matter of 10 laps.
And if they don't, well, guess what? No harm, no foul, right? They still have the opportunity. Again, nobody being cut out of the race. All 28 drivers taking the green flag in heat number 1 will advance to the main feature tonight. So just an opportunity for these drivers, as we've seen time and time again in this series, to get their bearings under them, learn how this car drives in a pack. But again, this is familiar ground here at Daytona. 2.5 miles, of course, around the Daytona International Speedway, and a combination for many of these drivers that they'll be familiar with in similar conditions over the next week or so. Talladega week on iRacing is next week, so perhaps these drivers going to get a little bit of a head start on what is always an entertaining week of events across not only private leagues such as this, but across the service and the official racing as well. A lot of chances for drivers to get out there and run on the high banks, and they'll start it here down in Daytona Beach, Florida tonight for this series. So pace car in just a couple of moments will pull onto the safety of pit road, and we'll be set for just 10 laps. No caution flags going to be thrown in this heat, so we'll just get to the end. And that'll be it, as the pace car will pull off field under the control of the drivers who qualified 3rd and 4th in single car qualifying, Brandon Hawken and Cosman Ienescu. And we are green flag racing here.
A nice clean start for the front runners, but already some shuffling in the mid-pack. Several drivers thinking about getting to that bottom line and quick. Kenny Brady quickly went from the bottom back to the top, back and forth, as several drivers already going 3 wide.
They are 3 wide back just behind this lead pack, and the one driver left hung out to dry is the points leader, and Tristan Hagenstein. Nowhere to go for him, and he is going to fall to the back. As you can see him there on the top, no refuge there in the top lane. He'll slowly get down just in front of Leighton Sabile, but out front they are 2 by 2, 4 rows deep, as again it is our same 2 up front. Ienescu, Hawken, and they almost get out of shape. The 37 of Ryan Naraki, a little bit of a wiggle as they approach the tri-oval.
These drivers seeming like, especially towards the front, that they're side drafting fairly aggressively early on. Cosman and Ienescu trying to really get towards that quarter panel of Brandon Hawken and pull him back. They were carrying about 2 to 3 miles an hour more speed up there. One driver of note did have a spin just now at the back of the field. I believe it was Jeremy Clapper. The rest of the drivers are okay. You see Clapper's made it to the apron.
Well, Tyler Williams, and Derek Justice get together in the back. Justice goes spinning in the infield as he came back up onto the track. And again, no caution flags, so Justice looking like it won't be a great starting spot later on tonight for the main event. But out front, we see that middle lane starting to get just a little bit of momentum here. Ienescu beats Brandon Hawken to the stripe that last time by, and he's got Ethan Corder, driver who's been very strong in the Grand National Series this season, working along with him.
That's Tyler Williams, by the way, that had that contact, not Clapper, but either way, these drivers looking like they want to try and already dice it up and go. Some of them, here we go, some of them wanting to try that third line and get a few drivers working there. Ethan Corder leading that group.
And I'll tell you what, they have the numbers to make it work, as Corder going to go all the way from the top to the bottom. Mike Fallon behind them will turn in front of the pack, and now it is going to fly apart here in 3 and 4. 10 cars or more, much more involved here, as one flipping in the middle. That is the 62 of Kyle Riley. Lucas Plosa, Mark Sabetka, Kevin McAdams. Ton of drivers involved, and we're left up here at the front with about 5 cars, count them 5, that somehow escaped all that carnage. Excuse me, 6. But that is it. Everyone else caught up in that wreck.
Well, you can see that coming with how practice was faring out, right? These drivers have been having some of this stability, and there we go again.
Ethan Corder right hooked on the straightaway by Brandon Hawken. They collect each other, and now just a couple of cars, maybe a handful or so, that have not run into some kind of issue here in the opening laps of this heat. And Corder right there was in the race lead and ends up spun here on the back straightaway. Again, no caution is out. You can see that's why drivers keep driving by on either side of the 818 machine, but that was a mistake. Justin Malillo puts in the chat as he calls out from the tower, and I'm not sure what to make of that, but nevertheless, 4 drivers right now stuck at the front, and I think all of them have some form of damage except for Brandon Hawken, who's about to get trained here on the back straightaway.
Yeah, no help there is a big run down the back straightaway, speeds of over 185 miles an hour for these drivers. Now, the interesting thing, though, is even though Brandon Hawkins got the clean car here, I don't know, Blake, if he's going to have necessarily the help, especially with the side draft already pulling these drivers ahead. He will keep the back end of this draft. Already, this has been an intriguing one. It has already lived up to the race name as we're halfway through the heat.
Yeah, it certainly has as we approach the halfway mark of this heat race. Only 10 laps for this one. As you see, the 89 spun there just a couple of moments ago on the apron as well. Nobody really having a good go of it except for the 4 here at the front of the field. But a battle for the race lead. Hagenstein, who we mentioned early on, getting left out to dry in the 3rd lane. He's going to shuffle back in line behind Leighton Sabile and Kenny Brady, your top 2 who have escaped with both Hagenstein and Brandon Hawkins. 2-car pack here in 2nd place. A little tandem going on between Jack Painter and Kevin McAdams, trying their best to hold on to the back. And McAdams, he's actually a lap car that's just pushing Jack Painter behind them. But you have to go back to about even off at 3 and 4 right now for the next battle that takes place with lead lap cars. Andrew Hardcastle, Michael Frisch leading that charge.
Yes, indeed. And keep in mind, when it comes to Frisch, Stewart, and a couple of the air drivers you were talking about, they actually did go to the very back of the field, I should rather say, to be able to try and avoid the trouble early on, and they still managed to get some major damage on their machines. They're looking very smart. They're going to have some good track position for the main event here tonight, but still, they have to navigate through a lot of lap traffic. Brian Keita on the top here, Ryan Naraki trying to run the bottom line in front of them.
And Araki running the bottom. And again, this was all started on lap number 2, and it looked like Ethan Corder, who was in the 3rd line, got a huge push, was able to clear himself down to the bottom for the race lead. He did nothing wrong there to take that lead, but it was when you see somebody dive from the top to the bottom of the racetrack as a driver that is back there in that pack looking to try and do anything, it's usually something out of the ordinary. Drivers react to it just a little bit, and it was just enough of an event for Mike Fallon to look out of the windshield of his Napa machine and just barely clip the apron, the yellow line through 3 and 4, and that was all it took for the pack to completely rip apart off of turn 4 and create the situation that we see in front of us now. Just 2 laps to go, 4 drivers battling it out, and again, this is for a better position in the starting grid. So Sabile and Kenny Brady looks like they have controlled the bottom. Hagenstein and Brandon Hawken trying to make a run on the top here.
And the interesting mark is going to be who's going to be able to build up the most momentum. The problem is going to be right now, Hawken, I think, is trying to cool off the engine to be able to get a big run coming off of turn 4 and push for the entire final lap. Here comes that run. The question is, will Brady have that same opportunity? It looks like at least he's trying. Here comes the block.
Oh, a big block thrown, and that is going to spread apart those 2 that were working together now through the tri-oval. 3 wide for 2nd, and Sabile really has a pick of which lane he wants to block, and I think he's going to try to take everything. But here comes Hawken to the outside, side by side. They'll go through 1 and 2.
And this is going to be intriguing again how this plays out here down the back straightaway. Sabile's playing the lanes very well, but it looks like the car can be very unstable with the bump draft. They have a ton of traffic that may play a factor here, though.
That may be the case. They now go 3 wide for the lead. Who's going to get the help? And it looks like Hawken on the top side. Hagenstein's going to go with him, and that may be what the 99 needs unless Kenny Brady on the bottom can clear them. Brady in front of Sabile, who has the help to the line. Slow traffic in the way. The 54 and 4 have to dodge it, and because of that, Brandon Hawken is going to get just enough as Sabile and Brady had to miss Mark Sabetka there, and that gave it to Brandon Hawken, who wins the heat. Brady second, Hagenstein third, and Leighton Sabile in fourth. Now, we do have a lot left to be determined here. Jack Painter was in fifth. Michael Frisch spun here after the start-finish line on the last lap. He brings it home in sixth. Nate Stewart seventh. But again, this is all just to try and improve your place on the grid before we get going here in a few minutes.
Especially for the vast majority of the field, as man, what a wild sequence to say the very least in this race. You had several drivers early on have some bad luck, but for the most part, all the big names able to come across the stripe. Only a couple drivers not able to finish, and I think if you're Justin Malone or Sean Butler, you're taking notes and saying, expect absolute madness now as a result of what they just seen.
I don't think it takes this race being run for us to come to that conclusion. I think that's been the rule rather than the exception in this race, or in this series rather, throughout all the races that we have run. So wouldn't be surprised to see that again carry over tonight to the World Center of Racing. You see Kenny Brady right there. A little bit of a warm-up period for these drivers that is mostly being used as a drivers' meeting before we get things going here for, it looks like, 60 laps here around Daytona. Again, Sean Butler and Justin Malillo, the two drivers that earned the right to skip that heat through virtue of their qualifying time in single car Q. They will start at the front, and as we were talking about earlier, Butler, one of those drivers that without a drop is just outside the top 5 in points to battle for that championship next week. But with a pole position tonight and with that drop in hand, he's looking in better and better shape to try to put himself in position to be one of those 5 drivers.
And keep in mind, Sean Butler is somebody who usually is a driver who likes to be up at the very front of the field, Blake. So it's going to really help his scenario and situation where all he really needs to do is drive and be himself, where he just needs to play the lines and just keep the track position. And I think that's very doable as long as you don't get yourself really loose off the corner, as we've already seen with a bad bump or a bad side draft, or get yourself put into a bad situation with all the battling. It's been seen, obviously, that the side drafts have been very, very big around this racetrack already to be able to pull drivers back, but also force drivers loose. This is going to be an intriguing race to see who comes away with the checkered flag, especially after what we just seen in the heat race.
Indeed, and we mentioned Butler, we mentioned a couple of other drivers who were just on the cusp, either just inside or outside of that top 5 in points that all these drivers are gunning for. Adam Martin, a little bit of a lead on the cut line, but it is going to be tight racing between these 3 drivers. Michael Frisch right now, who with the drop would be your 5th and final championship contender. 5 points behind him sits Ryan Naraki, and just 5 points behind Ryan Naraki sits Cosman Yaneshu. So it is going to be a close battle between those 3 drivers, and pretty much whoever fares better tonight out of those 3 will end up being our 5th championship contender. But here is the starting lineup for the 240. Sean Butler, your pole sitter. He gets it through virtue of single car qualifying, as well as Justin Malillo. He's awfully strong on these plate tracks. No shocker to see him on the front row. Brandon Hawken will start on the inside of row number 2 with Kenny Brady to his outside. Tristan Hagenstein will roll on 5th. Leighton Sabile in 6th. Jack Painter 7th. 8th is Michael Frisch. 9th goes to Nate Stewart. And Andrew Hardcastle will round out the top 10.
Max Brady starts in 11 tonight with Chris Wentz in 12. Ryan Vargas will try and wheel his way to the front. from 13th position, with Mike McConville to the outside at 14th. Ethan Corder had been in the lead pack and gotten through the madness of the first big one of the heat race before he got turned around in the second big one. Brandon Mertzdale will start in 16th with Tyler Williams, Derek Justice, Cosmin Ineshu, and Mark Sabetka, your top 20.
21st to Kevin McAdams. Ryan Naraki will start in 22nd, looking to make up some points tonight. 23rd to Mike Fallon. 24th is Adam Martin. Brian Keita will start in the 25th position. 26th to Jeremy Clapper. 27th is Lucas Plosel. 28th, Benjamin Fanning. 29th is Kyle Riley and Matt Wishart. He was the odd man out in that heat, unfortunately. Through virtue of his finish, he'll start at the back of the field tonight to complete all 15 rows that will be competing this evening here at Daytona. So they'll roll off for the grid here in just a couple of moments as you look out over Lake Lloyd here at Daytona. Lights on the outer oval here at Daytona. Always a wonderful setting here to come here to the World Center of Racing at nighttime, see the lights fading or flickering on as the sun continues to go down and set over turn one. It's a really nice setting here, and again, I think setting us up for what will be a good race tonight.
I think it will be an exciting race, to say the very least, and with a lot of crazy moments. But keep in mind that some of these drivers are looking to carry a lot of momentum and pressure tonight. We talked about Butler and his scenario. Brandon Hawkins always been quick here at these super speedways. Also, keep in mind, Ryan Vargas has been quick at these super speedways as well. Actually won a charity race here a couple months ago with some big names, looking to make his way to victory lane tonight in SNSL competition. In fact, his first start of the season, along with Sabile's first start of the season, along with Chris Wentz. So you have a couple different drivers also looking to say, I want to try and win a race here and make a name for myself in this situation.
Always an opportunity to try and make a name for yourself, whether it's official racing, whether it's in league racing like this, or even out in the real world for some of those competitors. Always looking to try and prove themselves, and they'll come to the stomping grounds here at For the Fans Racing FTF to try and add their name to that. But here at Daytona, as we mentioned earlier, 2.5 miles, 4 turns, all banked at 31 degrees to allow for these high speeds as they'll work on the 31 degrees of banking in both turns 3 and 4, head on to the front stretch and to the 18 degrees of banking that make up the tri-oval here at Daytona. So in a couple of moments, the iRacing.com pace car, can't call it a Mustang pace car anymore since the update, will pull onto the safety of pit road for 60 laps here at the World Center of Racing. Sean Butler and Justin Melillo in control of the field, and Barney throwing the green flag. We are racing here at Daytona.
And already Nate Stewart electing to go to the back of the field, hearing potential technical issues for Stewart in that regard, but you can already see how the lines are shuffling. It's similar to what we've seen in the heat race, already going 3 wide in the heart of the pack.
Yeah, Melillo got hung out to dry, almost a mirror image of what happened to Tristan Hagenstein on the opening lap of our heat just a couple of moments ago. And you could see once again the middle line forming up just as it did in that heat. Kenny Brady, Leighton Sabile, who again in his first start in this series with help from Michael Frisch, will try to get that second lane working as they exit off the banking out of 4 for lap number 1.
And Brady's someone that does a lot of iRacing work, especially when it comes to running these types of races. Going to lead that first lap. Looking like he's working very well with Sabile to start this off. It was seen in the same circumstance in the heat race as well, so they seem very comfortable with one another. But you have to be very careful at the same time when you're working with Leonard Blake, because you can't push in the corners with these cars. You push even a little bit by accident, you can cause a massive incident, spin somebody around as Brady to the bottom.
Well, I think these cars these drivers, they're willing to get to the back. They're willing to take that risk to push in those corners. It's just how long you can do it. I think that's the issue, particularly in these Xfinity cars. These cars notorious on these plate tracks for heating up very quickly. Now, we are at nighttime. It's cooler temperatures, just 70 degrees out here at Daytona, and some pretty heavy winds, 7 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour here at Daytona tonight. So they have the opportunity here to push for a little bit with these cooler temperatures, but these cars are well known for, out of the top 3 National Series machines that NASCAR utilizes on iRacing, these heat up quicker than anything, and I think you can see exactly why right there. Clean air for Leighton Sabile on the nose, and Michael Frisch going to take advantage of that. He'll cut down in front of Kenny Brady, take away and wrestle away that race lead.
And Michael Frisch running a bit of a different style for this race. Normally we see Frisch go and run at the very back of the field, stay in the back for about 40, 50 laps maybe, then slowly migrating his way up to the front before finding his way, in most circumstances, with a chance to win a race in super speedway action, FTF competition. He's become known for that as a trademark. Surprised to see him already deciding, you know what, I want to try and be up at the very front of the field as they take Brady 3 wide through the sucker hole.
Yeah, unfortunately, Brady, no help there in the middle line. He has to fall all the way back to Jack Painter, who has to pick him up, and not before losing about 3 or 4 rows worth of positions. Butler going to go to the outside of Michael Frisch. And very early on in this race, Justin, it seems like that middle line that I'm watching is so fast. We see the top starting to form up now, start to gather some momentum and enough energy as well. But from what I've seen, you almost want to be that lead car in the middle line. Nothing has really slowed that down yet, and I think Butler recognizes that as he jumps up in front of Kenny Brady, ducked that back down to the bottom as he has wrestled away control of the race lead once again.
And the difficult part when it comes to super speedway racing in general is controlling that bubble and trying to manage the runs. You need to be smart when it comes to that, because you can't just simply cut to the right, immediately make a block. You can easily cause a wreck by doing so. So you need to be able to determine, okay, where's this run coming from? How big is the run? Is it possible to stop the run? What will happen if they try and give me a bump draft as a result of me trying to go for the block? All of that can come into play. And keep in mind, fuel burning is also going to be very critical by being the lead car in the pack. So that's something you have to think about, is how much gas you're going to be burning up compared to the driver's slate. Like even Michael Frisch, or the drivers in the back of the field like you've seen with Stewart, who are going to be able to run not as much throttle time and in turn be able to save a bit more gas up to a gallon.
Now, you would think that maybe that won't help them make one less pit stop. I imagine everybody's going to be able to get to lap 30 or later in the event that we run all 60 laps here to the green flag. But, of course, being able to go that extra lap further, have that draft before you have to make a green flag pit stop or take less fuel when you get to pit road, that is where the drivers are going to look to try and make up that time. As you see Brady, he'll duck to the outside of Sean Butler, who just gets left out to dry there in the middle line. Brady going to look to go back down to the bottom, but he'll dive off the nose of Matt Wishart, who has made his way all the way up from the back of the pack. He started dead last. He now leads the outside line, and now he's looking to go to the top spot.
And keep in mind, points available, bonus points in particular, for laps led, the most laps led in the fastest lap. And you have to wonder, for some of these drivers, they might be thinking, okay, I want to try and get some valuable bonus points if they're in that tight situation. You talked about it a little bit with the drops factored in so far for some of the drivers in points. Those points may be your difference between battling for a championship, being one of the first drivers looking on the outside. And from what I can tell, Michael Frisch, that may, when thinking about it, may be one of the main adjustments. It's a couple drivers that just scraped the wall on the outside. A few drivers shuffling back. Lucas Plussel is among those drivers who just scraped the wall and checked up the back of the main pack.
And I think he was one of the lone drivers that really got slowed down by the wall there. A couple going up and perhaps scraping the outside safer barrier, but they didn't slow up more than the 44 as we are once again 3 wide up here for the race lead for just a moment. Butler going to fall on back as Brady and the 97 of Brandon Hawken nearly leaning on each other. But here comes that top line. Sean Butler, Derek Justice, just 2 cars trying to lead and pull along that pack. We've seen that third line, it's worked, but I don't know if 2 cars is going to be enough to do it.
I don't think it's going to be enough. It's been talked about in the past. You need to have around 3, 4, 5 or so on that top line to really make it work. But you can tell that at the very least, they're trying to side draft in the corners to try and keep up and slow down the momentum of the middle line a little bit. And it helps, too, that they keep on trading that middle line like a deck of cards for positioning right now. So at the very least, right there, corner exit, pull back the 54, slow down the momentum of the middle line. That keeps them going on that top line for now.
And I tell you what, those top 2 of Justice and Butler doing a masterful job of making that high line work right now. And for drivers, this is going to be the last of what I feel is going to be familiar territory for a little bit. Of course, iRacing trying to do everything they can to replicate the real-life super speedway package. They've enacted some changes that right now are available in the Cup Series car. A little bit more side draft, a bit of an air bubble when you catch up to the back of a driver. Obviously, that is being put in place and perfected, and something that will, I imagine, at some point be added to these Xfinity cars. So these drivers have had a lot of time knowing how these cars race on iRacing, but in just a little bit, that's going to be something that kind of changes the name of the game, how you drive. Obviously, we're going 3x3 right here, and we've been 3 wide for a number of laps on the bottom, in the middle, and on the top of the racetrack, but soon that side draft, it may even become more powerful here in just a few months' time.
You make a great point when it comes to the Cup car. It's massively powerful. Can slow drivers down up to 10 miles an hour potentially at the moment. Of course, as you talked about, though, it's about getting it perfected before being migrated over to the 1.5 miles and as well, more so in the NASCAR Xfinity Series machines. Now, there are minute differences we see these days now in the super speedways continues to be perfected, but the main thing is this pack, you need to be able to stay in the lead group to be able to have a strong shot in a lot of these cases. Right now, this main pack, it's about 15, 16 cars thick or so. There are still several drivers trying to keep up with the rest of the pack, but the thing is, the speeds, looking at those differences, some drivers are running up to 5 miles an hour quicker than those that are trying to run single file in the back right now.
That is a case where a little bit of this draft running in a pack, it's been known here to make cars a little bit faster or make that pack move a little bit. I don't imagine that'll be the case when those updates are made, but for now, that's how you get them moving. And of course, those drivers back there, I'm sure they're taking it easy. They're lifting a little bit. They see this snarling pack 3 abreast as it's been for about the running of all 12, as now we approach lap number 13 of this race. They're thinking of what happened in that heat race. One guy gets out of shape and the whole pack just flies apart. They think that that is just on the horizon of what we might see in the next lap or so. And I tell you what, Jack Painter had a couple of moments there. Said, no, Frisch gets into Brady, and there it goes. There's the pack.
And there's the caution flag, as it's the big one, as just about the entire pack just involved in the big one, or first big one of the main race tonight. And all it took was one bit of contact door to door between Frisch and Brady at the front for chaos to ensue.
And that's exactly right. Really only, I'm looking out, I think only about, I don't think there's anybody up here in this lead pack that if they did escape, they didn't suffer some form of damage in that accident. I think as we're going to take a look here at the bar visuals replay, it's all going to start here with your top 2 cars. A little bit of contact there on the door between Michael Frisch and Kenny Brady. And there it goes. The rest of the pack piles in. I think Mark Sabetka may be the first car that didn't get some form of damage in that wreck.
Yeah, Sabetka went all the way from about 15th position to the top 5 as a result of being able to dart on through. but several drivers might be forced to use the faster pair, and it's only lap 14 because you have several modifieds and significant damaged cars at this point. Derek Justice, significant damage. Frischke as a result. That hard hit bounced on both sides, significant damage. Brady's lost his front clip from sliding off to the infield. This is going to be a very interesting caution flag to see which drivers elect to use the faster pair as a result. Keep in mind that a majority of the drivers already had damage from some of the bump traps that were going on in the back of the field too.
That's definitely a case as well. I think everybody suffering. The first car I can see by the eye test that doesn't have any form of damage is Andrew Hardcastle, and he's back in 10th position. Everybody else has either a little or a lot of damage on their race car. So we'll see who comes down here, who's going to take that fast repair. Imagine a couple of drivers that feel as though they can get it fixed or at least keep up in the pack with the damage. They'll likely hold on to it, but there's a couple, I think Nate Stewart being one of them, a couple of drivers who lost that front clip. I think they're going to be a little more straightforward about this situation. Sean Butler perhaps being one where they know they pretty much are put in a situation where they have to use the faster pair, and they kind of have to change the way they race here these last 45 or so laps.
Already looking through, Brendan Hawkins used the faster pair. Jack Painter also used the faster pair. A majority of the other drivers are getting manual damage repairs, though, done, which is going to be very critical for how this race plays out. So those drivers are trying to bank on the faster pair. There's one also interesting note. Ethan Corder, shockingly enough, elected to be the only driver not to pit under the caution flag, and with the window expected to be for him to have to come down at about 20-ish green flag laps. This is an interesting call where he's banking on another yellow in about 15 laps to then in turn potentially pit with the rest of the pack where no one else would have to pit from that point forward.
That is a very, very interesting call, or perhaps maybe trying to get that bonus point that we were talking about, trying to get all those lead laps that they could possibly obtain. But Michael Frisch, you saw a couple moments ago, he's going to continue limping along with some of his damage to try to get along there. We were looking at Sean Butler for a moment. I believe he has used that fast repair, and indeed he will, as he gets a brand new nose on that Pennzoil Ford Mustang. Derek Justice looks like he may have done some repairs to that car, but not a fast repair, so he does have a little bit of damage to the Baskin-Robbins Toyota Supra as he'll work off of the banking here as we get the one to go. Lights are out on the pace car. So like you said, Ethan Corder staying out, not electing to come down pit road. Again, it's a very interesting call, especially if we continue to go green the rest of the way. That is going to be a call that hurts him when he eventually has to come down pit road. So interesting strategy here from the 818, but we'll continue to try to update you on drivers who use that fast repair or not. It looks like it's about a 50-50 split on drivers that were involved in that wreck, whether they decided to utilize it or not.
And some of them, it seems, not by choice, but by accident in the case of Max Brady hearing as well. So we'll have to see how this goes for some of those drivers now that that's going to affect how they attack this field and try and get to the pack. We also had one driver lose a lap as well. Chris Wetz spent so long trying to get repairs done with the 71 that he lost a lap. So we do have a driver who, if we have a caution flag, would be in potential position for the lucky dog in 30th position. And the tough break, too, you can also put Ryan Vargas in the bad luck grouping. Remember, he was trying to cut through the field. His car is absolutely demolished in the 6 machine to the point where the fuel pickup is actually crushed in, you can see. And in real life, that make it very difficult to fuel that car.
That certainly would cause an issue there, but luckily these virtual catch cans are, I guess you can't say catch cans anymore, gas cans, will be able to take some of that fuel. As Vargas trying to catch up to the pack, we will go green at lap number 17 of 60 here tonight. 818 of Ethan Corder gets away, green flag back in the air, but Leighton Sabile, he was awfully strong in that heat race, and he's trying to flex his muscles here, but he's got a little bit of a crinkle on the nose of that Matenex Chevrolet as he tries to play catch up there in the middle line.
That's going to really affect his ability to be the lead car, I think, because it will affect the top end speed. But he might be able to still push a little bit. The tough part's also going to be the temps once he ends up being in the pack. But keep in mind, there's already several drivers thinking about peeking to the outside. Michael Frisch has already peeked up to the outside with his damaged machine as well. He couldn't get anyone to jump up with him, though.
Nobody jumps up with Frisch, but Sabile gets one to jump up with him. That is Matt Wishart, who gets control of the front of that second lane, and Sabile will work with him in that Matenex machine. And by the way, a bit of a meaning behind that for both the number 4 and the number 6 driver. You now have the opportunity for the eNASCAR Pro Invitational Series to vote a driver in through a fan vote for next week's race at Talladega. That number 4 scheme, as well as the number 6 that's being piloted by Ryan Vargas here in this race. Those are the schemes that are trying to get in both Landon Castle for JD Motorsports in the number 4, as well as Ryan Vargas in the number 6, trying to utilize their fan votes to get in. So go to eNASCAR.com, go and score your vote for Castle. Ryan Vargas, who's obviously a participant tonight in this race, I'm sure he would appreciate your vote as well, or a range of other drivers. I remember seeing Josh Berry, Justin Allgaier, even Raja Karuth, who make up that list of potential invitees to the eNASCAR Pro Invitational Series at Talladega next week. They'll be in the Cup cars for that. Should be interesting to see. But in this race right now, Kevin McAdams will take control of the second lane. Hagenstein going to go beneath the yellow line. Quarter making contact with him. Is he going to be able to get back up onto the surface? No, not without contact and trouble in turns 3 and 4 as Hagenstein and Sabile get collected, and that'll take out a couple of cars that perhaps didn't use that fast repair earlier. And I think Derek Justice didn't yell he yelled over the radio.
Wow. Just wow. Even when you factor in yellow line rules into that, you have to have common sense. Most drivers are not going to give you space once you reach the banking of the corner to come back on the racetrack there. It just was not going to work there. There was a bit of space there being left just in case, but Quarter elected not to give that space for obvious reasons, and it ends up getting the second big one of the race. Not sure what else to really say about that.
Well, it's one thing, you look at that yellow line. One thing that is different here in FTF that this league has is they do not abide by the yellow line rule. There is no out of bounds if you want to go down there and make a pass. We saw the same rules being utilized in the FTF Grand National Series and the Cup Series when they came to Daytona back in February for their round of league races. So Hagenstein made a 100% legal move, and I think on lap 19 of a 60-lap race, I think it's like you mentioned, Justin, you have to have some form of awareness there to know that if you don't give the guy room to come back on the track, there's going to be a wreck. There's no doubt about that. And I think Quarter right there just either underestimated the amount of room he needed to be given, or just thought that the move didn't warrant him being allowed to get back up onto the racetrack. Either way, I think that was an avoidable wreck, especially when we're not even a third of the way through.
It was definitely an avoidable wreck. It's just a matter of, again, even with the ability to do that, is it really worth doing on lap 19? Yes, it's to get valuable track position down there, but still, now just about a vast majority of the field is now put in a box where they have significant damage here, and this has just mixed up the strategy and then some in this race, where Matt Wishart and Tyler Williams are able to stay out, and just about everybody now has, at one form at least, a scenario where they're either out of fast repairs with significant damage or significant damage. I'm just not sure how to put it. It just takes common sense from either side, mind you, like you said, to make that type of move in this time of the race.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we even have one of our drivers out there in chat says taken out in both wrecks, and obviously used that fast repair in the first one, so not really an opportunity to get back up there. But I know one driver who did not use that fast repair that first time, and I'm sure that he's glad that he did. Derek Justice was one who I know for a fact did not use that fast repair for that first caution. He still got the same damage from that first wreck. He even collected a little more in that second one, but he still has hung on to his fast repair, trying to play the long game here tonight. It looks like for the most part, I'm still looking at 30 cars on the racetrack. All of them are moving at this juncture, so not one car that has been given terminal damage, it seems, that will put them out of this race. But it's certainly going to be a couple of drivers who, after using both or their one fast repair and being involved in both of those accidents, their path to victory tonight is going to be all but impossible.
There is Jack Painter, though, we just seen, by the way, who is in the pit lane and might not be able to make it to the start and finish line, or the grouping of cars, rather, in time for the start, since he had already used the fast repair with significant damage to the back end. So this is going to be an intriguing race now on how this plays out, because now the strategy is not just about where you want to be track position wise, but can you survive to get to the checker flag without using your fast repair too early. So there's definitely going to be a lot of discussion on the team radios to see, okay, do we go into the front and try and stay in front of the wrecks, or do we try and go to the back and try and lay back and stay away from the trouble and then risk having to dodge the incidents, but also being potentially far enough to avoid slamming into the incident.
I think another thing that you have to perhaps keep in mind is, are we going to be good on fuel? Obviously, you can run about 41 laps here in this car at Daytona. And, of course, you have the potential for green-white checkers as well, so this could set up, of course, if we could go green the rest of the way, this could set up an interesting scenario on being close on fuel mileage as well, but that's just something we'll devote some attention to it if we get that far without a yellow flag. We'll see if we can do that. It's Matt Wishart out of the tri-oval. Will have control of the race lead. He and Kevin McAdams were just ahead of that accident that took place. They get away scot-free, and they'll have control of the top few spots as we get single file for the first 5, and I think a lot of it has to do with Tyler Williams. He either didn't get through the gears or has some form of damage there to stack up that middle line.
Yeah, just not able to get quickly up to speed, but surprisingly, some of these drivers on this top line, despite being absolutely demolished, Mike Fallon getting some great help from Cosman to be able to get to the lead car on that outside line, and he might get the lead lap here.
Fallon may be able to do it through the tri-oval here, and he will have it by just a nose. His nose is even crinkled a little bit on that Napa Toyota, but he is able to drive it to the front of the field. So a little bit of damage, but nothing that he can't fight without. Is Mike Fallon there? He'll get passed here on the bottom by both Matt Wishart and Kevin McAdams as they work through the corners. Adam Martin to the back of the 26, who jumps up right in front of Mike Fallon. And now Kevin McAdams, grandfathered into FTF and many a victory, many a championship here in this series. He'll cut back down and basically just pulls a crossover on Matt Wishart, jumps out of line, takes the lead, and he'll jump back down to the bottom with control.
Look at those JD Motorsports with Gary Keller machines, though, starting to hook up clean race cars now for both Vargas and Sabile. So they've decided, you know what? We're going to take this gamble and try and hope that we can stay out of trouble the rest of the way. So they've now tag teamed with one another up on that top line. As well, you have Sean Butler, despite his damage, being able to quickly cut up inside the top 15, as well as Ethan Corder coming back.
They are definitely able to keep up despite their damage. Now, the one thing we haven't seen, those same drivers who many of who you mentioned have made that third line work so well. And just as I was saying, we don't have a third line. Here it comes, Tristan Hagenstein with a little bit of help from Ryan Vargas and Leighton Sabile there on the top side. They're the three who go to the top. And remember, this line worked in these cars. I remember all the way back in November when we were running the eNASCAR Pro Series, as it was called then. I guess you could branded as the eNASCAR Road to Pro Contender iRacing Series now. But that third line was able to work if you had enough energy with it. And I think we've seen that throughout tonight. The bottom is not nearly as strong as you would think, that middle line. And when you get the right people formed up, that high line has been awfully strong here tonight as Riley and Butler will drop to the back of the field on the apron.
They're not liking what they're seeing already with the 3 wide. And again, Butler has already had to use the fast repair plus a tow. Riley already with significant damage on the 62. So this is all playing into a factor of, okay, what are we going to do now for this to play out the way to take the checker flag? So this is all coming into big picture plays right here. Keep in mind that at the very least, we know Wishart and Williams need a caution to be able to get to the checker flag, to be able to get gas. Everybody else here is right on that cut line to be able to make it. So this is going to be intriguing how this all plays out in the strategy as that third line, as expected, starting to hook up a little bit. Sabile and Vargas trying to get it to work, trying to get some other cars to come up with them.
They have definitely been wanting to go to that third line, just haven't had the energy built up to sustain a run out there for the time being. They'll duck back in line behind both Mike Fallon and Cosme Ionescu right there. I know Fallon is contending there in the middle, but you still have to think a little bit of that damage, particularly in this car more than perhaps any other on the sim. We know that this car does not take well to aerodynamic damage, so the fact that Mike Fallon is up here with that crinkled Toyota Supra nose, I think is something to say about Fallon and the drive that he has here tonight. But I have to imagine that at some point you're not getting everything out of that second lane that you could, and I think Sabile and Vargas may have recognized that as Sabile looked to go high for just a moment, but he'll tuck back in line as they did earlier.
I'm wondering if at this point the reason no others have ducked out to that top line is they might just feel content on just riding and trying to have a bit more of a calmer race, at least for the next few laps or so. Save some gas, just be patient as a result to save. So that's the only main thing I can think about here, Blake, on why they would not, at the very least, try and shuffle Fallon out here. At the very least, Sabile and Vargas don't want this to continue. They want to try and get up to the lead here.
Well, I think we saw it work for McAdams perfectly. He got to the race lead and was able to miss that wreck, and I think Cosman finally going to dump Fallon. He thought he would have some help from Sabile, but unfortunately it was nobody going with that 84 Mustang, so now he will fall to the back of the field, and Fallon will still lead that second line. It's exactly what Matt Wishart wants, though. If you're the leader of that bottom line, you want the car that may be slightly damaged, slightly slower than what you would have. You want him leading that second line, but Fallon getting close to flat out clearing Matt Wishart here at the front of the field as they work through 1 and 2. Wishart now back out by Justin O's. He, again, has had drafting help from Kevin McAdams and Adam Martin throughout this entire run.
And I think that's in part because Sabile is trying to see what they can do at the very least. All over the back bumper of Fallon to the point where he's checking up and getting really, really slippery and snaky at this point. Look at that, though. Shockingly, Nate Stewart, without a front clip, has been able to hang out inside this top 15 somehow.
He's been able to do that. Of note, one spinner in the back. It was on the apron just about a lap ago with some cars that were a little bit damaged. It was Ryan Naraki. He spun on the apron, but we still remain under green flag conditions. Naraki now in danger of going a lap down. At 33 seconds behind the leader. You could see him running by his lonesome there just a couple of moments ago. McAdams now to the race lead as he and Wishart will do a little bit of a swap here for the lead on the bottom line. You can see them all out of shape, wiggling around here on the back straightaway as they try to get it together. Mark Sabetka is out of control, and he's going to spin here in 3 and 4. 43 is hard into the wall, and the caution flag is out.
And interesting to see what happened here, as I think Sabetka just lost it. And I was about to say, as the tires wear out, it's easy for the cars to get really loose on you. And for Sabetka, he lost it for a good corner and a half in turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough right here. You can see all the air working right there. You can see on corner entry, Sabetka is chasing that race car, and he just never gets to the point where he fully catches it. A hard hit there for the 43, who was just an innocent bystander there. Tyler Williams collects a fair amount of damage in that. Mike McConville, he's been awfully strong in this series this season. He got a piece of it as well. And that's really tough. You typically don't think, especially here at Daytona, having to hang on to a race car as you enter turn 3, but you can see the back end just stepped out just a little too much there off the nose of Nate Stewart. Stewart did an excellent job of avoiding everything that was happening in front of him as the 3 cars around him got caught up in that accident. But that's why you always have to be aware here at Daytona.
Absolutely, and that's why in some circumstances, depending on how your car's feeling and the speeds, drivers might actually lift a touch bit on the exit of turn 2 and the entry to turn 3 to make sure they don't spin out. But the call just paid off for Matt Wisher to be able to get track position. He's now stayed out. Sabile and Vargas electing to stay out rather this time. Everybody else electing to come down and top off, it looks like, to be able to make sure they're good to go plus GWCs.
Well, you'd have to imagine after somebody just spun, it looked like their tires perhaps wore out on the right rear. So everybody else perhaps taking note. They'll come down pit road, and I'd imagine without track position being of the utmost importance here at this juncture of the race, they'll get 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles to slap onto that race car. But the experienced Sabile and Ryan Vargas, they'll think better of it. They will take the track position and try to keep it out front here at Daytona. So we continue to pace under caution here in the FTF Saturday Night Super Speedway League. And while we do that, we'll go side by side and be right back after this break.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12-Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
And back with you here from the Daytona International Speedway for the penultimate race of the FTF Saturday Night Super Speedway League presented by STN, as we have 5 drivers looking to battle their way into the championship race next week in the Series 240 here at the World Center of Racing. Lights are out on the pace cars. We work off the 31 degrees of banking here at Daytona. The iRacing pace car will pull onto the safety of pit road, and two Matenex Chevrolets at the front of the field. Leighton Sabile and Ryan Vargas will lead us to the green flag as Sabile, easy early jump for the driver, the number 4. He'll jump up to the 6, and we might have a lane change there. We'll have to see how race control views it, but it looked like the 4 definitely got up in front of the 6 before that start-finish line. We've seen it in force before. We'll get a note from race control a little bit later on, but nevertheless, they will go off into 1 and 2, and Ethan Corder will go back down to the bottom. He'll look for the race lead.
And already Vargas taking responsibility of what just happened on that start, I believe, over the radio, as well as already they're hooked up the way they want to. They want to work together. They want to stay hooked together on that line. Several drivers picking up on that already, trying to snake around and figure things out here. Is Brandon Hawken losing a ton of momentum, you see, with Butler and company on the top line.
Trying to make that top line work back there in the back of the pack, but out front they are getting it to work just a little bit. Matt Wisher, Derek Justice there on the top. You have a 2-car tandem in the middle of Sabile and Ryan Vargas, but without the numbers, I imagine that this bottom line may just have enough to hold on. But as I say that, here come the surging Chevrolets in the middle of the pack. Sabile, Vargas is now a quarter. Oh, he blinked out for a second. That may check up the bottom for just a moment as they work into the banking in 3 and 4.
And keep in mind, Justice very much known for, especially in these types of races, to try and get that third line working, and does a great job of keeping the energy and momentum up while doing so, even when they don't have the numbers. But it helps as well, though, that the second line is starting to die off with that third line. Justice, though, electing to ditch it here. He wants to maybe be the lead car for this top group.
Yeah, Justice will leave that third lane out to dry. You can see how quickly that kills that top line here for a moment, as now Ryan Vargas gets to the outside for the race lead. They'll go side by side down the back straightaway as they work into 3. Vargas with just an advantage, perhaps had a nose on Ethan Corder. Fallon, a big wiggle in the back. He'll join the middle line, but they are side by side, door to door for the first 3 rows.
Hard bit of pinching there that time for Vargas, as Vargas wants to lead a lap here and gets it by a photo in the finish nose there. It's getting very dicey at the moment, but Sabile, I think, wants to maybe get back up to where he was there. He continues to get himself shuffled out, though, by trying to be on that top line. No one wants to go up to that third line now, except for Derek Justice with a big run.
Well, Justice has a run, but he's got no help with him, so I don't know if he's going to be able to do a whole lot with it, as everybody says, we'll take the free spot. Thank you very much, Derek Justice, as he will find his way like an anchor to the back of this field. Vargas trying his best to hang on there for second over Kevin McAdams, and Vargas doing a nice job, running a little bit lower than we've seen this middle line doing. He's trying to lead everybody and get right up to the door within a couple of inches of Ethan Corder, try to pinch that line down on the bottom and give all the space they need, as McAdams just out of line with Corder. That may be the advantage that Vargas needs. New race leader, the 6, goes to the bottom, and he has control of the point.
It's been pretty clear he's been wanting to do this all race, but the thing is, he's got no help to do so. They're really starting to shuffle about behind him and beside him at this point. This continues to be the back and forth affair with these drivers wanting to get those valuable points, keep in mind, as well as try and shake things up, be in control of this pack.
Well, don't forget about that third line, though. Matt Wishart, after a couple of laps in the back of the field, he wants to make his charge utilizing that third line. He had Ryan Naraki and Leighton Sabile for a moment, but Naraki into the fence here in the tri-oval. That is going to kill that top line. So the third line again tries to get momentum rolling and is just not able to quite figure it out. But at this moment, Corder, a big blink right there that may stack up that middle lane just a little bit. Wishart will jump to the outside. Vargas gets a big wiggle after contact with Kevin McAdams. They'll scatter apart. They stay going in the right direction for now, but again, when they get back across the stripe this time by, it'll be 20 to go, and Hagenstein now, third line, is moving. Here comes the 27 Ford Mustang, your points leader, looking to take control of the lead.
And this is going to be intriguing if he can get this to work despite the damage. Just don't have the numbers once again for that to work. It's pretty clear, though, that fuel is not a concern for these drivers anymore. It's just a matter of just try and keep the tires underneath them. We're reaching that point where these drivers are going to start getting a bit light on the corner exit of turn 2 and the entry of turn 3 again, though, as here comes the run for McAdams.
McAdams poked his nose to the middle, and like many before him have gone from the bottom to the middle. He may cross back over, and if Ionescu can get clear, and yes they do, a couple of drivers stack up on the yellow line in reaction to that, but a two-car move, we've mostly seen it done with just one, but Kevin McAdams along with the 84 get 2 positions each, and they'll move up to the top 2 spots on the bottom line. But Ethan Quarter, here comes Derek Justice once again. He was about 10th that last lap across, and he is shoving all over the back of the 818, nearly spins him around as Quarter has to chase it up the racetrack. And again, that will allow the bottom line to surge forward.
I have to wonder if that's what the run with Riley from behind just couldn't check up in time, as they're really starting to bobble around. Justice got really unstable coming off the corner there with the bump from Riley. As there he goes, he turns him.
Ethan Quarter around and flying here through the entrance of turn 3. We know Justice was going to be an aggressive pusher, and perhaps that was a push gone wrong, as Quarter, looking for the race lead, gets a bad bump from Justice, gets hooked in the right rear, and that sends the 818 about 10 feet above the ground. And unfortunately for him, probably going to be the end of his night with all the damage he just collected.
Just an incredible circumstance there where you talked about the bad bump, and immediately just got hooked on the bump for the Supra, essentially. That's on the front nose. How we didn't get hit by even more cars, I'm not quite sure. What a job there for Michael Frisch. Look at that. To lock it on down to prevent getting significant damage on the 58.
A nice job there of avoidance. Says, oh man, that is tight quarters for Michael Frisch. Saw it again on the replay. Unfortunately, Sean Butler gets tagged in it. Nate Stewart looks like he barrels in there a little bit late. Gets Kenny Brady a little bit. We know they've had a little bit of a history in the GNS series, but Frisch did a nice job slowing down for that. We take a look at it once again. A violent turn to the right for Ethan Quarter. A nice job there from Frisch, and then just kind of a secondary there. Butler unable to avoid him, and Stewart perhaps just tagged the driver of the 54 as he was trying to slide his way through those drivers coming back down the racetrack.
Yeah, and Butler, you can see, was trying to predict where's that car going to go. I think he's going to stay up the racetrack. The problem is, Quarter started rolling down the racetrack as soon as he bounced off the outside safer barrier after the tap to the side of Frisch. That's going to get significant damage there for Butler's machine as a result.
Yeah, that's going to be a fair amount of damage for him. We've seen some drivers be able to recover from having that much, but obviously Butler, one of the drivers that used his fast repair a little bit earlier, he was destroyed. He actually took a tow back to pit road after that first accident, so no doubt about it. His car is destroyed, or at least was earlier, so no fast repair left for him. But one driver I want to point out here, we had him on the screen just a couple seconds ago. How about Justin Malillo? I believe no fast repair for him. He's been biding his time back here. He started in second. He was second on speed, and other than that has not been really competing at all tonight at the front of the field. He's just kind of waited, biding his time, and I think this is go time for Malillo, who has one, or actually he does not have a fast repair in tow, so this is it for Malillo. But we know somebody who likes these super speedways and always seems to find himself in a good position at the end of these races. Wouldn't be surprised to see the 53 up into the top 5 and perhaps even looking at a potential race win here late in this one.
I can see him trying to make some aggressive moves now, because it's been talked about with the blown motor earlier. that he didn't really have the ability to go up there. I mean that if you go up there and get involved in some of these incidents we've seen, you're essentially out of contention for these closing stages, and this is why you want to, as a driver, when you have a fast repair available, bank it for about this point forward. So that being said, it's going to be tough for him a little to try and get there up completely, because he is going to have to work his way from 14th position on the top line, needs to be able to find some help and quickly, and then work from there. So it's going to be that tricky part of finding someone that's willing to take him up to the front with him, and then navigating his way as the front car is also going to be the tough part on top of things.
It is, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at a couple of upcoming events. We're going to term it unofficially and officially both as Talladega Week here, both on iRacing and here on STN. We'll get it kicked off next Thursday night. The eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series gets squared off from Talladega. I'm hoping I can have another interview on here. That would be that'd be good luck if we could somehow escape Talladega with that. I'll more than likely be in that race, but it should be a fun one. That'll get kicked off Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on STN. And, of course, the FTF Saturday Night Super Speedway League, presented by STN Championship Race, the season finale, also at Talladega next Friday at 9 p.m. right here on STN. And, of course, the FTF Grand National Series, presented by Bar Visuals, same place, different time, Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern for that one. And the Four Corners Racing League at Talladega Monday night gets kicked off at 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. So a lot of Talladega upcoming here on STN, and two drivers up note that have gone to the garage and are out of this race, Jack Painter and Ethan Corder. After that wreck, they will be done. Painter is 11 laps down. Corder, obviously you saw him spin off the nose of Derek Justice. So pace car will pull off. We'll come into the green with 15 laps to go when we cross the stripe. McAdams in control and about a car length in front of both Justice and Ionescu, who battle for second as they head towards turn one.
Just going to take a few moments for these drivers to get up to speed here. Mike Fallon, though, I think has just lost a bit of his luck because he got ditched around. Whoa, where did Sean Butler come from?
Sean Butler must have gotten an insane restart. Started all the way back in 26, and that's exactly the case as he came rolling up on the high side, timed it absolutely perfect with his repairs, and he just said, screw it, I'm going to go out here. He was about 170 when he hit the line, 26th, and when he crosses the stripe this time, he'll be 7th. That is definitely worth another look as Butler up to 7th after the damage, and he's staying up there.
Let's take a look at what happened, and sheesh, indeed. Picked up speed, was trying to catch up to the rest of the pack after getting damage repair. Timed it up more than right. He timed it up to the point where he put himself inside the top 10 with the big run. A ton of effort just to dodge all those drivers on the top line. Some good awareness for those aero drivers to make sure he was coming up there. Again, just about everybody had already crossed the start and finish line. He was up at full speed while everyone else was still at 100 miles an hour.
And again, he timed that perfect, and by FTF rules, there was nothing against what he just did there. He got the run, he passed on the outside, which you are, of course, allowed to do here, both in FTF and on the iRacing service. So nothing a foul there, just really good timing and perhaps some really good luck for the driver of that 32 Pennzoil Ford Mustang. And he's able to keep up with this damage, got a little bit of track position, but they are racing hard here at the front of the field. McAdams now has control of the race lead. A couple of FTF championships with Kevin McAdams, and a driver who was very close to winning a number of them in that Baskin-Robbins machine directly behind him and Derek Justice. But Sabile and Vargas, the Big Necks machines, have found themselves up at the front of the field as well. Outside of row number 2, they push each other along, and they will try to get the best of this bottom 2 who are working well on the inside.
And that bottom line is starting to die off a little bit with the damage for Butler. It's taken him an extra couple seconds for him to gather up the momentum, and he's 2 miles an hour slower than the rest of the drivers. So this is going to mean some drivers might start to scramble here and get to that bottom line to try and then ditch the drivers in the middle, then navigate back up to the middle here. It's going to be an interesting sequence here coming up.
interesting indeed as McAdams trying to hold on to the race lead. And again, you don't see as much energy there in the middle line, completely formed up as possible. They continue to fall on back. Now the third car in line able to get clear of the second lane. And here comes Derek Justice. He may have just a little bit of a run here on McAdams, looking to the high side for the lead.
And Justice has been trying to work his way into this spot all race long, it seems. Just the damage took him out of contention to do that earlier on in this event. Seems very comfortable with the pushes, though. Keep in mind, these drivers going to have to be very careful with the potential of a push up now on that exit. Justice able to clear on by with the help of Vargas.
Justice able to get on by, and as many leaders have done before him, he'll cycle back to the bottom of the racetrack to take control of the race lead. But there's only so much defending you can do from the bottom. I'm surprised many leaders haven't tried to stay in the middle just yet as we come to 10 laps to go. You see the run that Vargas has, Sabile able to make it work. There's contact in the back, though, through the tri-oval. An amazing job of keeping it going in the right direction was Kenny Brady. Had a little bit of contact there in the tri-oval, and now Vargas is around, and there we go, another big one.
And Vargas that time trying to move down to the bottom. Definitely had the clearance, but he might have needed to do it a little bit sooner. Just waiting until the middle of the corner, which in some circumstances, if you build up enough momentum on the bottom line, it can cause trouble. And I think it may have caused the trouble indeed here. And remember, Vargas did use the faster pair earlier on, so this may take him out of contention. You'll see on the replay, as several drivers are still crashing down the back straightaway, I believe.
They are crashing. I'm even hearing words from a couple of drivers over the radio. There may be some claims of intentional wrecking, but we'll have to check back with that in a little bit. But I think you're exactly right. A move that Vargas thought he had Justice clear, and unfortunately when he came down there, they met. Vargas was definitely in front, but just enough caught there with the Justice machine that it spins him around. He didn't take that bump all too kindly there and sends him around, and really only a couple drivers that end up missing it are the few at the front of the field, and that's Sabile, that's Mike Fallon, and I know Justice got a little bit of damage out of that, but he gets away compared to the rest of the field about scot-free, who are, you see a lot of front clips missing there.
And I'm not sure what this is all about with Mike McConville and Mark Sabetka. Sabetka just floored McConville into the wall. Where did that even come from?
That's something right there. I don't know exactly what would have happened right there, because there was just a lot of checking up going on, and they had a little bit of contact through that accident, as you can see right there. But obviously, I don't think it's anything that was intentional. It's just trying to check up, and there's smoke everywhere. You don't know exactly where you're going. Sabetka runs into the 96 right there, who got a little bit loose, so they come together. And then obviously, Sabetka just waits on him and just drives him into the wall. So obviously, tempers flaring here late Friday night here at Daytona.
I think the tempers are still flaring for these drivers out the pit lane, as Sabetka done for the night. So, and that's for obvious reasons. But we were talking about Maluo. He's now absolutely demolished as a result of the incident. Just about everybody now has damage in this field. But Leighton Sabile has a strong chance of coming away with the checker flag here with the clean race car. Him, and that's about it, has a clean race car in this pack, other than the drivers who just used the faster pair.
Oh, man. A lot going on. A lot to sort out. And we actually are getting word from race control that Mark Sabetka has been disqualified. He has been shown the black flag in this race, and he is out of here. So Mark Sabetka, for those actions under the caution flag, is going to be removed from the remainder of this race. So, yeah, that's a lot of sheeshing going on tonight, if I may say myself.
Well, that's a way of putting it, but These closing stages, I think, are going to be wild with what we've seen, because you've got several absolutely demolished cars up in the front that have been having trouble off the jumps. But you also have several more who are now in the fast repair sequence, where you have, I think, Cosman, Kevin McAdams, Benjamin Fanning, Chris Wetz, Riley, who might be coming in quick here. And, oh, remember Nate Stewart without his front clip? He's still running 2 and 13. By the way, Mike McGonville's okay with his fast repair, but still. The amount of drivers who are going to be trying to get up to the front end fast is going to be wild here to try and get by those with significant damage on their cars.
And again, not a whole lot of time to do it. Remember that we have a couple of laps here. We also do have the potential, if we continue to keep on going, for green-white checkers to perhaps become a part of the conversation as well. I remember we had the Riley DPs at Pocono last week. We had up to 5 green-white checkered attempts, and who's to say that, you know, there is the potential there for us to have you know, up to 5 as well here at Daytona. I don't know if we'll have as many cars that end up making it to the end to be able to take part in that, but I guess perhaps we'll see, as several drivers with the lights off on the pace car starting to work their way around Daytona. They will be damaged. They're obviously trying to get all the repairs they can, but they'll just try to get to the end, finish this race, be a part of the top 5 that will be competing in the championship race next Friday night live here on STN. We mentioned going into the broadcast your top 5 drivers that were sitting up there in the point standings with the drop being taken into consideration. Tristan Hagenstein, Mike McConville, Sean Butler, Adam Martin, and Michael Frisch. And of course, Ryan Naraki and Cosmin Ionescu within striking distance. So we will continue to watch how that point situation unfolds. Pace car going to pull off, and it looks like Sabile Justice, your top 2, as we get the restart. 6 to go here from Daytona. Green flag is out.
And it's going to take some time for several of those drivers up there to get going. Brandon Hawkins, significant damage, had to duck out to the top line. Several more trying to dart 2 to 3 wide. Look at Hagenstein.
Look at Hagenstein trying to make up ground there as he eventually gets back in line. You could see that second-place driver at Justice, perhaps not the speed he thought he'd have when he'd take off here, and he's getting left out to dry. Justice falling further back. Ionescu and Butler trying to push along. They have a little bit of damage, but they're trying to do everything they can. Vargas still trying to hold strong, or excuse me, Sabile holding strong there on the bottom as they're wrecking into 3 and 4. Will we have a caution? Car slides up the racetrack, and we will have a yellow.
And that will bring us to just about green light checker territory, as it's Adam Martin who needed a valuable points night tonight. Getting in trouble, but it was in front of him where things really got chaotic. After Hagenstein got pushed really hard down the middle of the straightaway on a big checkup. That was after Stewart checked up for the cars in front. Hagenstein gets hit from the back end for Kita, and in turn, they shuffle near 4 wide into the corner and start crashing. You see right there the big check.
Sorry, I pushed the wrong button right there. Make sure you push the right talk button right there. But, yeah, you see them get involved. Perhaps Melillo trying to make a move right there. It just all comes together right in front of him. 89 gets involved. You see a little bit of damage as we're right on board here with Justin Melillo. Through the middle, a bit of a checkup there on the bottom. They go in 4 wide. And there's just not enough room for Melillo to try to squeeze into that hole that was right there when they compressed together 4 wide. The 89 spins around. Not too significant damage for any driver, I'd say, but this is going to put us in territory if we might get a green-white checkered or perhaps a natural one that won't count against official overtime, but we'll have to see officially how it scores and when the lights go off on the pace car. It's still on right now on lap 57, so it'll be close if we get one or not.
I believe it will be a natural GWC if I'm counting the laps correctly, with it being a quick yellow racetrack, so we should get the one to go next time by. The drivers coming in for damage repair: Hagenstein, McConville, Melillo, Hawkins, Vargas, Martin, Kita, and Clapper. and all of them have some significant hits that they're trying to fix on their race cars. I believe Clapper might have had a faster pair available in his circumstance, so just trying to play things different as well. Hagenstein with a clean race car will have to try and work his way from the very back of the pack, 17th now in that 27 after that incident.
Have a lot of ground to make it up. Unfortunately, Hagenstein kind of has the benefit of a large points lead with this point system. Again, this is NASCAR, I guess I'll say NASCAR Nextel style points. I think that's the right era or time period to bring up. And in terms of bonus points for leading, for obviously we have the fastest lap that's a little bit different. But yeah, Nextel-ish is the word I'm getting in my ear from our producers. So Hagenstein came in with the 74-point lead. Now, mind you, that isn't, 2 races worth like it would be under the current point system, but that's about half a race or so. You could win a race back then, get about 185, 190 or so points, and Hagenstein going to be able to collect quite a bit here, even with the position that he currently runs in. So more than likely, he'll leave tonight with the points lead, but at the end of the day, it's about being one of those 5 championship contenders, and have to imagine that he is well in a position to stay in that top 5 when it's all said and done. So for him, just trying to get to the end of this thing and see who he's going to be competing against for that title.
Absolutely, and as the one-go signal now comes out on the racetrack, to be honest, this could go either direction because you have several scattered cars with damage. You've got drivers with clean race cars that are going to be probably taking this 3 wide here. And you've got Sabile, who showed he might try and defend 2-3 lines at once. This could be a wild sequence of events. I think at the very least we may, with the talent in the field, get to the white flag. But at that point, it's going to be crazy, Blake. I'm not sure what you're expecting here.
Well, I don't know what to expect either. I think the one thing we have to be certain about is going to be some crazy racing here at the end, and we will not have that green-white checkered, so this could be the first of, I guess, an unofficial 6. Obviously, we can go to overtime with up to 5, but this would kind of work in itself naturally. And, of course, how this will work, as it always has here in iRacing, if we have a caution flag on the lap of the restart, we will throw the yellow flag, and, of course, we'll work into our standard green-white checkered procedure. If we can get to the white flag, if whoever is the leader can get to the white flag before the caution flag comes out, that we will race back to the checkered flag regardless of what happens on that final lap. So we'll see if we can get to that point. Pace car going to pull off here in just a moment. Leighton Sabile, Mike Fallon with Michael Frisch, and Max Brady. Haven't mentioned his name a lot tonight, but he is up front at the right time. Sabile, an early restart for him. Not sure if that's what you want when you're the leader, but nevertheless, he gets out by about a car length and a half over the rest of that bottom line. Green flag is out, and here comes Kevin McAdams trying to make the third line work all by himself.
As to be expected, him trying to take a 3 wide, but the problem is no one's there to help him, even with Mike Fallon having a very slow launch. But I think down the back straightaway, there's a few drivers who might shuffle up top. There they go.
And there they come, the Speed Inc. teammates trying to make moves on the high side, and they have a head of steam. Can they get clear of Brady? Max Brady there in the middle. McAdams is able to do so. He'll slot on in, and again, if we get to the white flag, when we get to the tri-oval, we'll see this thing through to the end. McAdams with the run. Sabile goes high to block, and McAdams goes to the third line. 3 wide for the lead. Brady goes with McAdams, and we'll see the white flag. It was led by Michael Frisch, who will lead it next time by.
Oh, and there they go!
And the whole field flies apart. Who's going to manage to escape out of it? For right now, it's Max Brady, as McAdams came down and thought he was clear. But now Max Brady, mangled as he is, single file down the back straightaway. But here comes Sabile. He's going to have a run behind him.
Can Sabile get side by side in time is the big question. He's got a huge run.
Sabile to the top of the racetrack. He pulls up to Brady. Brady going to throw the block. He puts Sabile into the fence. Sabile falls back, and that's going to be all she wrote. Max Brady, in a remarkable last lap turn of events, is going to win this race with Benjamin Fanning and Derek Justice coming up just short. What a finish to that one.
Wow. Just wow. I expected us, like I said, to get to the white flag, and we did. I wasn't expecting for the chaos to begin coming into turn 1. Wow.
Max Brady, your winner tonight, in the most stunning of fashions, with a wreck there late as McAdams looked like he got turned or perhaps tried to cut down and just wasn't clear. The entire field from the lead on back somehow gets involved. Brady escapes, well, with a couple of others, and that ends up being all she wrote. Let's take a look at it once again.
How about 6 wide of wrecks? Wow. Just about everybody wrecks, and Sabile gets the best momentum out of all of that outside of Brady, since he had basically a near clean race car by just dodging his way through Frisch and Fallon and company as they all spun around and behind him. But man, what a track blocker for that circumstance. This really shook up the field with drivers trying to play dodgeball to avoid the big one.
It does, and a couple of heavy hitters in the points, they end up getting involved in some late race carnage. Michael Frisch, Sean Butler, a couple to mention, Ryan Naraki in it as well. So what happens here with the points, that's something we'll have to talk about in a little bit. But for right now, the results of the 240. Max Brady is your winner. Benjamin Fanning, he had a run late at the line. It was just a little too much too late. He brings it home in second with Derek Justice along with him in third. Sabile had the opportunity to go high. He gets shoved into the wall with a little contact there with the 57. He finishes in fourth. Kyle Riley brings it home fifth. Tristan Hagenstein in sixth. Nate Stewart seventh. Mike McConville recovers there from the intent wreck to finish eighth. Ninth is Brian Keita. Justin Malillo rounds out the top 10.
11th goes to Cosman in Eshu with Lucas Plusso in 12th. Adam Martin recovers from earlier incidents to 13th. It'll be Matt Wishart who finishes in 14th position. Brandon Hawkin, I should rather say, finished in 15th position. Kevin McAdams, who was in the main pack in the final lap, finishes 16th. Jeremy Clapper, 17th. Chris Wetz, Andrew Hardcastle, Michael Frisch, who was in contention for the win, ends up finishing 20th position.
Tough night there for Frisch. 21st to Mike Fallon. 22nd, Sean Butler. 23rd, Kenny Brady. Ryan Vargas finished in 24th tonight, one lap down. Tyler Williams in 25th. Ryan Naraki, 26th. Brendan Merdsta finished in 27th. 28th went to Ethan Quarter. 29th, Jack Painter. And Mark Sabetka finished in 30th. But right now, Max Brady, the happiest of the bunch. And Max, for a win like that, just try to take us through that last lap or that last restart, how you ended up in this position.
That is a great question. I don't really know. So okay, so I'm going to start back from the beginning of the race. So there was one wreck, I think it was on netcourt or whatever, and I totally forgot I had a fast repair. So I came down to pit, accidentally took my fast repair, so I rode in the back most of the night, and I got into a couple like little wrecks, and I took a whole bunch of damage and all that stuff. And then there was a wreck, I think with like 10 to go, and I was literally like 30th, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna stay out because I didn't have any damage to take. So I stayed out, restarted 7th, got to 4th somehow, and then I was pushing Kevin, I think, and he made a move on Leighton, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go with Kevin, and I did, and then it didn't work, and then they all wrecked, and then I was just like, I'm just gonna go by on the wall, and it somehow worked, and then I already had so much damage from the whole thing that I think Leighton had a clean car. So I was like, all right, it's me and Leighton, and I just had to like time the block, and I timed it, and it stuffed him. But I won the sheesh race in the baby car. So I think great night.
Definitely a great night, but how difficult is that? Because I was just about to say on this last restart, when you restarted fourth, I don't think I had mentioned your name once at all on the broadcast tonight. Just all of a sudden came out of nowhere. How difficult was it to, have to race that conservative race when you kind of accidentally use that fast repair that early?
Yeah, it was pretty difficult because there was so many huge wrecks that happened, and there was a couple ones that I just got shoved into, but I didn't have a lot of damage. And then right before that caution came out where I stayed out, I wasn't even in the lead draft. Like I was 31st or whatever. I didn't have anything. So and then I stayed out, and then I kind of just picked my spots, and I guess I was in the right position.
Well, you certainly were able to do so. And I know running that car here in this race, I want to give a shout out to a few people. I'll let you take the mic and do so.
Yeah, shout out to obviously my team, Unattached. They've been doing good things for all the other iRacing stuff. And I was in Discord with my brother Kenny, so that was the only person I was in Discord with. So I guess thank him. He kind of worked with me a little bit. I don't know what happened to him, but yeah, that's really it.
All right, Max Brady, your winner tonight of the 240 here at Daytona. And there we go, as Max Brady ends up putting it in victory lane. And with a very late charge, Fanning came up just short, and he'll catch up with Justin Prince on his second place effort.
Well, first things first, Benjamin. What did you see when madness ensued on the final lap?
No, I really don't know. I was just kind of sitting back there. I want to say maybe about fourth or fifth in line down there on the bottom, and I just saw everybody just start spinning directly in front of me, and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna just keep it pinned and hope for the best. And I'm not even joking. The seas literally just parted. I don't know how I even made it through there, but a small gap opened. I just held in it, did a little bit of drifting, and I came out of it. I have no clue how I did it, but that was awesome.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane to see what happened on that final lap. There's been big ones, and then there was, well, that tonight. But what was it like trying to play through the lines? Because it seemed like a night where everyone was going back and forth through the field, and several big ones seemed to collect drivers tonight.
I'm not really too sure, because my whole plan that whole race was just chill in the back and wait for them to all, do the funny and whatnot, and waited till the end. And from doing other Xfinity races, it's really wild with how this package is. It's all so back and forth, and everything really works. It's probably my favorite package to run, but I don't really know how I was up front tonight. I wasn't up there much.
Indeed, and when it comes to this series, what would you like to tell fans when it comes to the intensity? Because you've competed in some of the races this season. How would you describe your season overall as a whole in the super speedway side?
In the super speedway side, didn't make it into the FTF GNS race, but this was my first SNSL race, and it was definitely a lot of fun. It was super intense. I mean, I was sweating probably that whole last lap and whatnot. I was really anxious going to that last restart, just hoping that I could scrape away with a top 10. But a P2 is absolutely amazing. It's nothing what I planned for tonight. But yeah, this is definitely some of the most intense super speedway racing I've been in. There's so many competitive drivers and big names in here. It's just so almost even frightening to me to look at this entry list and think, man, I'm gonna have to go against these guys and try to do my best.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Michael Carey, he's a great dude. I'd like to thank TobyChristie.com. They do some absolutely awesome reporting on NASCAR and that stuff. And I'd like to say hi to my grandpa at home and some of my friends that were watching this.
As someone who has spoken with Michael Carey and gotten advice from him in the past, definitely a great person to work with and a great person to be able to be associated with. Congratulations, Benjamin, on the run.
Thank you.
Benjamin Fanning coming home in second tonight, Blake.
Fanning brings it home in second, and of course, bringing it home. Oh, well, I need to move Derek, not move myself. There we go. All right, so Derek Justice brings it home in third tonight. Long night, a lot of attrition early on, and I know for you specifically, it was a little difficult because you elected to go with the strategy where you saved that fast repair for a majority of that early part of the race. How did that go for you?
Oh, it went pretty well. I told myself if there's like there's 90 like big old chaos after halfway. I said I'm going to take it, so I took it on lap 33, and so I went from there. And that race was, I'm going to be honest, that was a little bit cleaner than I thought it would be, because practice was a little chaotic, because usually how the attitude is in practice is what it's going to be in the race. But it was not too bad of a race. So it was pretty fun. I had to do some drifting action there on that last lap to make sure I could make the corner going in turn 1 after that final wreck there. But that was something.
It was something for us to watch, but how do you take these races? I know you come out here not running on a full-time effort, but what kind of brings you out for tracks like tonight, races like tonight, to continue to come back here to FTF?
Well, for SNRL, like, it's just whatever the track, especially the car that they choose. Like when they choose the car that I'm not familiar with and the track they choose, usually I don't want to come out. But stock cars, typical Daytona, Talladega, iRacing, Super Speedway, you name it. As long as it's a NASCAR stock car for the majority of it, I'm gonna come out and support it. And the race length tonight was perfect in my opinion. So 60 laps, not too long, not too short. I think it was just right. It didn't require a lot of thinking when it comes to strategy if we went green flag all the way. So that took strategy out of the equation. So it was a fun night.
Oh, it was fun. It was fun for y'all. I hope it was as fun for y'all as it was for us to watch up here in the booth. But no, a lot of people make it happen for you. I'll throw you the mic one more time to get us out of here.
Yeah, just appreciate everybody just coming out today. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I'm a part-timer. Like I'll just pick and juice and races that I want to, I feel like if it's going to be a fun time or not. Not saying that the races that don't come out are not fun. Don't get me wrong. It's just it's whatever I feel like that it's going to be a good chance for me to have a great time. That's all.
That's what we're all here for. But Derek, you bring it home third. Congratulations, and we'll see if you got one better. You running GNS tomorrow night or just running Cup Series this weekend?
I am going to run South Boston tomorrow. I ran there last year, and I felt like I got pretty good idea what the track is going to give me from last year. I actually liked South Boston, believe it or not. We had some pretty decent runs there last year, but I know this year in the short tracks and the GNS hasn't been too kind, but hopefully that turns around for tomorrow, and hopefully we put on a good show.
We'll see. So as Derek Justice, the former FTF Grand National Series champion from last season, will return to his old stomping grounds to compete at South Boston tomorrow night. But Justin, any final thoughts before we leave Daytona tonight?
Well, the race lived up to the name for sure. To say that, first of all. Second, the pressure definitely was on for a majority of the drivers tonight, and they lived up to said pressure. And in turn, things really got shaken up in terms of how things played out with some of the drivers. It was an intriguing one, to say the very least, though. And in the end, the drivers who survived the big one were able to take that checkered flag, and that's in some cases just how the luck seems to turn at these types of races. You never know when the big one's going to strike, and we had several tonight.
We certainly did, and perhaps the most important thing that we can cover tonight are the 5 drivers that will be taking place in the race for the championship next Friday night. They are as follows: Tristan Hagenstein, Mike McConville, Sean M. Butler, Adam Martin, and Cosmin Yaneshu, the 5 drivers who will have their chance next week. Whoever finishes the better of the bunch, they will take home the FTF Saturday Night Super Speedway League, except it's on Friday, championship next week. So make sure you tune in next Friday night to see that. And again, tomorrow night, we will have coverage of South Boston for the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. So for our entire broadcast crew, for Justin Prince and for Zach Johnson down in the production trailer, my name is Blake McCandless, where we bid you farewell and so long tonight from Daytona. Congratulations to tonight's winner, Max Brady, the victor of the 240.